a few items this time to discuss. Usually it's a little short, but as we get into the year, various things happen. You can see on the report we have some positive variances in the tax collection area. But the next item you see on the report is kind of important, and that's the dissolving of the Bristol Resources Recovery Fund, if you will, their fund. So we've received a check for $241,000, and we're going to recommend to put that into the sinking fund and apply that to capital projects, or capital items, excuse me, in the operating budget, for instance, police cars and things like that. So it'll take some relief off the mill rate. Obviously, we've had a very cold and snowy winter, and you can see we're estimating $630,000 plus, but there's good news behind that. Very good news. We received a one-time grant that we wisely did not budget for last year. We weren't sure if we were going to get it because of the lateness of the state legislature approving the grants and things like that. So we received a $2 million one-time grant from the city to be used in part for snow and ice removal. So we've got the snow and ice covered, and that's really something good, because if we budgeted it last year, obviously it would have been applied to mill rate and other expenditures, and it wouldn't have been available this year. So it was a wise move on our part when we didn't know if we were going to get it, that we did not budget it. But now that we have it, you'll see it coming through your joint board meeting, that we're going to appropriate the money and take it from there. Yes, Mary?
I'm not sure if it was me not paying attention, but I thought you said you got this grant from the city. Do you mean the state?
I meant to say the state.
Okay, I
city.
Again, I want to be clear.
For the city, from the state. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like we don't give out $2 million grants.
No, I know.
Yeah, so that's something we're also going to have to read into the rest of the grant. One thing we did identify is for snow and ice and other projects, but we're going to have to identify what those other projects are so that we can maybe apply it to other areas of the operating budget, or the 10-year capital improvement budget, which is coming up tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and that's going to be a very important discussion if we have 1 or 2 meetings on the 10-year budget. I'm going to spend a little time with that, because we are at a point where we've got a lot of outstanding authorized but unissued debt out there. And I don't want to put the city in a position that we just keep on issuing authorizing debt, because at some point in time, we got to issue it. And when you issue $40, $50 million of debt, that's $2 to $3 million in one shot that hits the operating budget of that following year. So we've got some large ticket items like the communication system, which I will obviously recommend for approval. And then there's a host of many other items that are going to be very important to look at and prioritize tomorrow night and maybe a following budget. So it's going to be pretty important. You can see also on another area, tax foreclosure account, a little bit over. It's over by $10,700. Not a major concern, because we usually get the money back with the liens. But another area that's going to be a pretty good topic of discussion during the budget process is roads. Obviously, with my discussions with Walter and some of his team, I mean, you can see it for yourself when you're driving on the roads, the buckling of roads. A lot of the roads that were in good shape last year are buckling and potholes and blah, blah, blah. It's throughout the state, obviously. So we plan to ramp up the budget for roads by a couple $100,000, and that's been part of a 5 to 6 year plan of doing so, and we have done so. We took a hiccup last year and kept it level. And this year is a tough year like any other year, but we're going to have to look very close at that road budget and get a better understanding once we get into maybe the month of April to see what the damages are, what the estimates are. We may have to maybe even increase the roads budget beyond what the request is. Hopefully that's to be determined, but it's something that I have kept on the forefront of your mind when we go into the budget process. Maybe sacrifices will have to be made in other areas to accomplish that, but it's something that is important. I didn't bring it to the table here because we just had a discussion recently on that. And we're also, another bit of news is regarding the budget process and the 10-year capital plan. You've been hearing me right along say that we're going to issue debt in the spring. I've decided to delay that issuance of the debt. I want to see what's going to come out of the 10-year capital improvement plan, what's going to be deferred for a year, if anything, and I would probably think things are going to be deferred. It's not going to affect our rating status. We're very strong. We've got $30 million in unassigned monies in the bank, so I'm not overly concerned about that. But to issue debt at this time would be quite a hit, I think, on the mill rate. So I think we need to look look back a little bit, see what happens this year, and then maybe spread the debt over 2 years, have 2 issuances. I was going to have 1, but we usually approve about $5 to $6 million per year of bonded debt in the 10-year plan. And the communication system itself could be in excess of $10 million. So there's 2 years in 1. So I really want to take a stronger look at how we're going to size and structure the debt service over the next couple of years. Any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome.